this is a little upsetting. Like, if they couldn't get along and that caused the relationship to end, and in the process, it hurts the team, which it may, very well may. That's unacceptable. Like, we can love this coaching staff all we want. We love Mike, but it's hard to protect him if part of the reason that Kellen would leave is they didn't get along. Like, the company should come before your personal likings or your job.
Yeah, but isn't this just? I mean, this is just life. Like, first off, we should be giving Mike McCarthy the most credit if he backed off and let Kellen Moore really do his thing. We didn't hear a lot of stories that he was interfering. I mean, hell, all of us fight and argue, and we're going to fight and argue. It sounded like it was pretty, is it copacetic, Bobby, between the two? And if they had some disagreements, like, that to me sounds natural.
It's natural. It's normal. Get over them, Like, you've got your disagreements. That's fine. You can still plow through and still go to work and still do a good job. You can not love – now, is it more difficult when it's your direct boss? Yes, maybe. People leave – the old ad, people leave bosses, not companies. And I get that. And if they didn't get along, I understand that. But still, then it's on the boss to amend, to change things up, to make it, acceptable and inclusive for everybody.
I mean, if they just have personality differences, though, if they've butted heads based off of that, and then you've got another team is coming along and saying, we'll hire you as our offensive coordinator. You can have the same job over here. There's not going to be any, oversight issues because this is a defensive coach. You get to work with Justin Herbert. Like, I mean, I think that's an enticing option whether you've got, tension or not. I think that it's easier to go, man, I this is already just kind of a relationship that's probably run its course. I don't love being, blamed by the fan base and the media all the time for failures that I don't think are mine. Why not just go out here to the Chargers, a lot less of a spotlight, get to run a really talented offense, not just work with a really talented quarterback, have the potential to be able to tie yourself to his legacy. Justin Herbert is very early on in the process, and if Kellen Moore can help him elevate to a Super Bowl winning quarterback, that's a huge check in his favor for his resume that would help his own legacy to tie himself to Herbert.
All right, I've been saving this for Choppy because I know he can't stand this guy. I love his podcast. It is an Odyssey podcast, by far the best football podcast I've ever heard on Odyssey. It's not even close. I mean, it's just way better than anything else that we've ever put out there. It's so
keep that same energy on Friday back in the studio, Sean. Keep that same energy.
Brian Broaddus will be in Friday. He and Bobby Belt do a podcast on Odyssey. And Broaddus loves Michael Lombardi, the former NFL general manager. Choppy gives me a hard time every time I book him to come on. I love how honest and blunt he is. And Michael Lombardi has never been a fan of Kellen Moore, and he says this will be great for Dallas.
And he's not able to provide the easy answers for Dak Prescott. That's when we run into problems.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality. I mean, I think Kellen Moore, if Kellen Moore was really wanted to be a great coach, Kellen Moore should spend more time understanding how to be more aware situationally, how to play the game each week differently to then take advantage of his intellectual capacity and advance the game. I kid about him, but to me, what he needs to do is, and I say this with the criticism that I offer, is constructive criticism. What he should do is understand, how do I play this game today to win the game? Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to collect numbers. I'm trying to win the game today. How do I play that? What do I do? What's the matchup I have to utilize? How do I get my best player the ball here? How do I run this offense as opposed to I'm going to run my offense? In fairness to Kellen Moore, no one's taught him this. So he's never been around a Parcells. He's never been around a coach that understands this, a Shan. He's never been around a guy that can incorporate the three areas of the team together. And if you don't know that, like Zach Taylor, you punt the ball down the middle of the field.
I love that last part. No one brought that up, that the Bengals never should have punted in that situation. They should have kicked the ball out of bounds. But, Bobby, this is something that Troy Aikman has spoken about last year. I think it was a playoff game, and these these analysts are talking about coordinators just calling plays versus calling to the game. What does that mean?
And this is something that, yeah, you mentioned Aikman. Warner also, Kurt Warner had said some similar stuff, that when there's a difference between, you know, it's like with chess, how like this move sets up this and I'm doing this. I think the feeling about Kellen Moore, the criticism about Kellen Moore is that he just goes in there with a run sheet and says, I want to do this, and I want to run this, and I want to run this, and there's no plan of execution. Now, is that a fair assessment? I don't know. Like I mean, if you sat down with Kellen Moore, I bet if you said, hey, what are you trying to accomplish this game, and how are you trying to accomplish it? I bet he would be able to lay out, well, look, I'm trying to do this so that we can get to this, and I want to do this, and things like that. My problem is not so much that he doesn't have that. My problem is that he sticks to it too religiously almost.
Yeah.
That he heads into games and goes, this is what I'm going to do. And there's no feel for the climate of the game. Like if things change or if you're seeing this isn't working, there's no change up. It's no, this is what I came in here planning to do. And by God, I'm going to do it. And that's my biggest problem with Kellen Moore. Also just some of the philosophical stuff. You remember I was complaining after the Tennessee game when Kirk Herbstreit said, we were talking to Kellen Moore in the meeting this week, and he said, look, running the ball may not be very effective, but we got to keep doing it so we can take advantage of the weaknesses in the secondary. No, just go in there and take advantage of the weakness in the secondary. That's what you do. You don't have to do something ineffective for a long time just to, well, now we can take advantage of what's my weakness. No, attack the weakness. That's been my biggest issue with Kellen Moore, is just go after, like, identify the weakness and go attack it over and over.
Choppy, it sounds funny when I hear these guys say, all Kellen wants to do, he just wants to get yards, and, you know, he's just trying to score points.
Oh, God forbid.
It's like, isn't that the point?
Yeah, I mean.
He's trying to just get to the calls on his play sheet to get the most yards and rack up the stats. And I'm like, isn't that getting to what we ultimately want?
Yeah, Michael Irvin said defense doesn't win championship, points does. Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator of Georgia, said, my job's not to win games. My job's to score points.
Oh, I thought he said it was to breathalyze Stetson Bennett in Dallas.
Well, that could be it, too. But, listen, I would love for my OC to be a bad OC and be third in expected points added per play as the OC in his 4 years with the Cowboys. One of those years was Dak Prescott was hurt in 2020 for most of the season. And then this year you also had Dak hurt. So, like, we're talking about a full year's worth of non-starting quarterbacks quarterbacking this football team. I do want to let Michael Lombardi aware of this. I'm sure he is. But Kellen doesn't determine where the ball goes. Dak does. Dak makes the throw. He determines if he goes short, if he goes long. He determines where the ball goes. Now, do the routes come in on Kellen? Yeah, sure, some of them do. And then Dak can also change those routes because that's what quarterbacks do. They have the option to make them, to change things up. Maybe not all of them, but Dak does. Kellen Moore does not sit here and tell Dak to throw the ball short. He doesn't.
Michael Lombardi. Go ahead.
I was just going to say he does. What Kellen does do, though, is he helps install an offense that determines the progressions Dak has to go through. So if Kellen's got a certain set of progressions, the one that Dak may think is the one that he wants to go to, or the route concept he wants to go to, maybe 4 on the list of progressions that he has to follow according to the play. And he can't just go rogue on the progressions. Like that's how the offense is designed. And if you do that, you start throwing everything into chaos.